I'm Morgan.
Standing in the opulent ballroom of the Lakeside Country Club, surrounded by over 150 guests at my sister Lily's MBA graduation party, I never expected the bombshell that was about to drop. My 85-year-old grandmother, Mrs. Thompson, stood up with a calm yet resolute expression. The room fell silent as she declared, "I'm pressing charges against you. My family comes from an affluent background. My father, Henry, is a well-known lawyer, and my mother, Victoria, is a former socialite who now manages a small charity. They've always had high-flying expectations, especially for Lily, my younger sister, by 3 years. I remember when I was 13 and Lily was 10. I brought home a report card. My mother barely glanced up from her makeup while I showed it to her. "Good, dear. We knew you could do it," she said nonchalantly. But the next week, when Lily got a B in art, my parents took her to a fancy French restaurant. My father ruffled her hair and said, "We're so proud of your hard work, sweetie." I sat there, pushing the food around my plate, wondering what was wrong with me. As I grew older, I realized that being self-sufficient meant being invisible in my family. When Lily struggled with her schoolwork, my parents hired top-notch tutors. I, on the other hand, taught myself late into the night. When it came to college applications, Lily had a professional consultant, while I spent countless hours in the library researching scholarships. On my 17th birthday, my parents sat me down and lectured me about financial responsibility and the importance of saving. 2 years later, for Lily's 17th birthday, she got a brand new BMW. When I asked my mother why the rules were different, she simply said, "Lily needs more support." "You're so mature for your age, you understand, right?" I did understand, but it still hurt. I understood that being strong meant being overlooked. Little did I know how much this would cost me in the long run. I was 19, just a couple of months from high school graduation, when my world turned upside down. I'd been accepted to a state university with a partial scholarship that covered tuition, but I needed the college fund my grandparents had set up for me and Lily. My parents had always told me, "Your grandparents want to make sure both of you can have a great education." One evening, I sat at the kitchen table with my acceptance letter in hand, ready to discuss the logistics. My parents exchanged a knowing look. My mother started avoiding my eyes. "We need to talk about the fund." My father continued, "Lily will need more support. Her grades aren't as strong as yours. She'll need the full amount to have the same opportunities." I was stunned. "But Grandma set it up for both of us," I protested. My mother snapped, "It's still family money. We're making the best decision for the family." My father interrupted, "You got the scholarship. You're resourceful. Lily needs this more than you do." I stared at them in disbelief. "So, I get nothing?" My mother stood up and said dismissively, "You'll figure it out. You always do." That night, those words echoed in my head. I didn't argue. I just went to my room, closed the door, and started looking into military education benefits. 3 months later, I was in basic training, while Lily was posting pictures on social media from her private university orientation, captioning them, "So lucky to have parents who believe in me." Over the next 6 years, I served my country. I worked night shifts to pay off my student loans and built a life on my own. Meanwhile, my parents' social media was filled with posts about Lily's achievements. They never once mentioned me. When I finally came home after my discharge, the first family dinner felt like I was a stranger. My mother announced that Lily was applying to top-tier MBA programs, and for the next half hour, they discussed Lily's career plans, GMAT scores, and recommenders. When I mentioned that I was looking into project management jobs, my father just nodded vaguely, and my mother quickly changed the subject. I found the Veterans Support Group a few weeks after coming home, and that's where I met Ryan. He was 32, had served 10 years in the military, and had the same lost look in his eyes that I saw in mine. We started talking, and I eventually told him the whole story about the college fund and my parents' dismissal. One day, a text came in the family group chat. Lily had been accepted to Columbia Business School. My parents immediately responded with excitement and promised to help with tuition. I couldn't hold back anymore and asked where the money was coming from, considering I was still paying off my loans. My mother accused me of being bitter, and Lily said I was ruining her moment. I decided it was time to find out the truth. I called my aunt, Clara, who was my father's older sister. She'd always been vocal about her opinions. Asked for my grandmother's number and details about the college fund. She said, "It's about time you asked. I'll send you the information right away." That evening, I called my grandmother. She said she'd been waiting for this conversation for a long time. Mom and Dad said the fund was family money and you agreed to give it all to Lily because she needed it more. I told her. She replied firmly, "That's a lie. Your grandfather and I set up that trust with clear instructions. $250,000 for each of you for educational purposes, non-negotiable." My grandmother revealed that she'd hired an attorney, Mr. Harris, to investigate. That night, I received an email from Mr. Harris with confidential documents. The first attachment was the original trust document, dated 5 years before I was born, clearly stating equal distribution. The second attachment showed that all $500,000 had been transferred to Lily's accounts since I turned 19. The third attachment was an alleged amendment to the trust, signed by my grandmother, which Mr. Harris confirmed was a forgery. The next day, I drove to my parents' house with the printed documents. When my father opened the door, his smile faded when he saw my expression. I walked into the kitchen, set the papers on the counter, and demanded an explanation. His face went pale, and he asked where I got the documents. I told him it was from Grandma's attorney and that he'd forged her signature and stolen my share. My mother appeared in the doorway. She tried to defend my father, saying Lily wouldn't have made it without full support. I told them they should have changed the trust legally instead of stealing. My father quickly offered to pay me back, but begged me not to make it public for Lily's sake. But I was done. I said, "You think about the consequences." And I left. A few weeks before Lily's graduation party, my parents asked me to come. I called my grandmother, and she said they wanted to control the narrative. I decided to go, not to forgive, but to witness. Ryan was worried about the public confrontation, but I was determined. At the party, as my father was giving a speech about how they'd sacrificed everything for Lily and her bright future, I sat there, seething. That's when my grandmother stood up and dropped the bombshell. She revealed the true nature of the trust, how I'd joined the military because I was denied my rightful share, and how my father had forged her signature. The room was in an uproar. Lily's professors and classmates were shocked. One of her professors said the school's ethics board would need to be notified. During the chaos, it was also discovered that my father had misappropriated another $60,000 from a secondary trust set up by my grandfather's first wife, all of which went to Lily's education. Lily was devastated. She said she didn't know and that her whole career might be ruined. My parents' social standing took a huge hit. Extended family members and neighbors distanced themselves from them. After the party, Mr. Harris explained the legal situation. My father pleaded guilty to embezzlement and breach of fiduciary duty. The district attorney dropped the forgery charges in exchange for full restitution. The settlement required my father to pay me back $260,000 plus interest over 10 years, serve 2 years of probation, attend mandatory family financial counseling, and be permanently removed as a trustee from any family trusts. 6 months later, Lily reached out to me. She apologized and said she'd found a job at a smaller firm. She was also in therapy and realized how much she'd taken for granted. She even presented me with a payment plan to pay me back from her salary. With the restitution payments coming in, I first paid off my student loans. Then I put a down payment on a small apartment. I also started a mentorship program for veterans, the Thompson Veterans Initiative, to help them transition to civilian careers. Now, 18 months after that fateful party, I can see the whole picture. I wasted years being strong and silent, thinking it was the way to keep the peace. But I've learned that boundaries are essential, even with family. My relationship with my father is slowly improving. We have dinner occasionally, and he's trying to make amends. My mother is still angry and hasn't fully accepted responsibility, so our relationship remains strained. Lily and I talk every now and then, and we're learning to be honest with each other. My grandmother is my pillar of strength. She taught me to stand up for what's right, even when it's against family. I don't regret pressing charges. I regret that it had to come to this. But I choose self-respect over false family peace any day.